Welcome everyone to today's webinar, How Progress Can Simplify Data Access for HP. Today's session you'll learn how HP peers leverage Progress technology to differentiate their solutions from the competition, speed time to market, and slash risk. This is Marlis Furs, and I'm your host for today's session. Ian Oliner, HP Senior Account Manager for OEMs and ISVs, and Jamie Merritt, Vice President Product Management at Progress, are looking forward to presenting Progress technology exclusively to the HP team. Ian has been in technology sales since 1991 and joined Progress 5 months ago. Ian is based in the Bay Area. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And Jamie is an accomplished technologist and vendor strategy professional with over 15 years in the software industry. Prior to dedicating his focus to data, Jamie held a number of technical and business roles that focused on bringing new products to the market and building successful businesses around them in the business process management, complex event processing, and integration SOA market landscapes. He is based out of the Progress DataDirect offices in Mooresville, North Carolina. A big welcome to you, Jamie, as well.
Thank you, Marlis.
I would like to now hand everything over to Ian to kick us off.
Yes, and thanks, Marlis, and thanks, everyone, for taking time out of your day to learn why HP chose Progress to be their provider for simplifying both data access and managing business rules. As Marlis pointed out, my name is Ian Oliner, and I am your field account manager and one of 4 Progress employees responsible for the OEM relationship between our two organizations. 2 other individuals from Progress supporting your account also on the webinar today are Sherry Bullock, who is your Strategic Account Development Manager, and Sarah Olet, who is HP's Customer Support Account Manager. So a little background for those on the webinar who are new to us in Progress or DataDirect. For starters, I think it's important it be known that we are very much a proven HP partner in the areas that we are discussing today, which is data connectivity and business management rules. For both internal use as well as externally, as an OEM partner, we've had an agreement in place since 2001, which is 13 years and counting. And today we can tout the fact that over 20 existing HP applications embed our data connectivity products to manage, integrate both relational data, big data, cloud services, including some applications here listed below. I'm not going to go into these. We've just decided to highlight a few. But matter of fact, as of Friday of this week, we expect to be adding another, and that is Tipping Point, whose product operations group will be leveraging our Salesforce connectivity offering. So if I was to highlight, why HP and so many others have chosen us over the years, I think the more popular answers are probably 3 or 4. I think first and foremost would be that we move data faster. And when you partner with us, you're partnering with an industry leader that's known for performance in the area of connectivity. Second, we open up your application to a larger ecosystem by leveraging an industry standard. Third, we allow you to bring your application to market faster. With partnering with us for connectivity, various HP groups can focus their development efforts on your core competency. And finally, and this might be maybe the most relevant, is we help you reduce your R&D costs. HP has been able to remove their QA, quality assurance, support expense associated with keeping up with various database vendors and releases by relying on us. And as we mentioned, we're also here to talk about business rules management. And here again, we are a proven partner, trusted partner. HP has been an active reseller of our enterprise business rules management engine for over 3 years with state and federal opportunities. So at this time, enough from me. Let me turn it over to really our product expert, Jamie Merritt, who's our VP of Product Management. Jamie, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Ian. I appreciate it. Well, good afternoon, good evening to our participants. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to join us on this webinar. We had a great webinar this morning for others in your HP audience, and happy to be following up with this one. So for those of you that are new to Progress, as you know, we've had a long-standing relationship, but there are certainly some on the line that haven't yet had experiences working with us. A quick snapshot of Progress, really looking at it from the numbers perspective. We're about a 30-year-old software organization, and we've built a lot of our business around deep partner relationships like the one we have with HP. So we have about 2,000 different partners that have used components or complete platform from Progress that have built their applications and their organizations around our technology. So through that reach, through that partner network, and through our own direct audience, we have reach into 140,000 different organizations within about 175 countries. People have built over 5,000 different applications. Our partners are building multiple applications using our technology. That might even be an underestimate. I suspect there's even more out there that's built on top of our technology through those 2,000 partners. But overall, over 4 million people are using applications every day built on Progress's technology. Many of them are in the process of moving to the cloud, so about 10% of our partners have already moved, made that move, and added cloud services, cloud applications to complement their existing on-premise businesses. And we've been instrumental in helping them make that move and helping them make that transition both at a business perspective as well as a technology perspective. So Progress, long-standing history of doing business through our partners and creating mutually beneficial relationships and great technology together. Progress DataDirect, which is where probably most of the people on the call have the most experience with Progress. That's our DataDirect, our data connectivity and data access product lines. We really have an unbelievable OEM channel. Of course, you see HP appears prominently in these slides, but the key point here is that the top software organizations in the world, hundreds and hundreds of them, embed Progress DataDirect technology into one or more of their applications, and it dramatically simplifies their ability to bring products to market, as Ian was discussing. So why did HP, as well as why do most ISVs, choose Progress DataDirect? Well, first off, we just make things a lot simpler. We make the differences between all of these different databases, whether they're relational or data warehouses or big data or NoSQL. We make everything feel and look consistent. So we force all of our different data sources to support the same version of SQL. We obviously allow you to use native SQL as well, but we normalize all interactions with those underlying data sources. So what does that mean to you? That really means less coding, less testing, similar, the same code path for many, many more of your data sources, as opposed to doing complex customization for each and every one of those data sources that you want to access. Very often people choose us for performance and scalability. If your application is being deployed in mission-critical environments, you cannot deal with the risk. You cannot handle the risk of using free or bottom-rate drivers that are available today. They do have a much more significant impact on the performance and the scalability of your application than you may expect. So many of our customers come to us simply because we have the best performance in the market. We are the performance leaders in the market. And if you're building a data-intensive application, you need your connectivity layer to be as performant as the rest of your application and to be optimized for that application. Focusing on your core competency, this is probably one of the biggest reasons our customers choose us, but it's people do not want to be in the connectivity business. I find often when people go down the path and embark on a path of building their own connectivity, building towards the one-to-one to the APIs, and building it themselves, they quickly find themselves spending more and more time and more money keeping up with changes in that particular system they're connecting to, adding more and more connectors to their portfolio. The reality is this is not a business you want to be in. This is an important component of your application, but not the where you add add your core competency, or where our partners really focus their time and their investment. So by partnering with us and allowing us to handle connectivity on their behalf, many ISVs and many partners gain that benefit of being able to dedicate the fullness of their resources towards their core competency and not having to deal with data access and data connectivity as a big development and maintenance expense. This obviously allows you to reduce your costs and allow you to rely on us for supporting the quality assurance processes around it, the maintenance and support processes around connectivity. We provide a very, very long-term, very savvy support staff that can help you get through any and all of your customers' connectivity problems while still allowing you to be the face to the customer. But we provide you a great escalation path with access to many of those data sources available. And finally, the speed of the sales cycle, the ability for SEs to demo your products, the ease at which your customers can evaluate, or you can deliver your own proof of concepts. You want your sales engineers, you want your sales reps, you want to be able to walk into a customer's environment and quickly integrate with everything that exists in their IT ecosystem. You need that portfolio of connectors, that library of connectors available, so whenever you run into a new system, you likely already have a connector available for that, instead of having your SEs and others scramble to find all these different components, download them, find free ones, make sure the licensing works, and adds additional barriers in the way of showing your services, demonstrating your products. So lots of ISVs choose us for a lot of these reasons. HP made those choices themselves for many of the same reasons. I'm going to talk to you a bit about our products. I'm really going to focus on data connectivity and rules, but we have a much broader portfolio. So I encourage you, if you're looking for a broader picture of progress, certainly work with your account teams, because we have products as part of our Pacific platform, which is really the umbrella strategy and the umbrella platform on which all of our products fall under. But we handle big data integration, application development, mobile application development, mobile data integration, and a variety of solutions around various analytics challenges. So we can solve a lot of business problems and a lot of technology problems together, and I encourage you to evaluate and look at all of our portfolio. But today, as I said, my real focus is going to be on these three product lines that are part of our Progress Pacific portfolio. So Progress DataDirect, DataDirect Cloud, and Corticon. DataDirect being our core connectivity solutions that HP many of you in HP know and love. DataDirect Cloud is taking that same connectivity, that same underlying capability, extending it and evolving it into a cloud service so we can deliver connectivity through the cloud, which has some interesting and important aspects of how you manage the life cycle of your software, because the cloud service continues to upgrade and update and add new sources. As you embed one component, you still have that one component in your software, and you don't need to do those updates. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, obviously. And Progress Corticon, Ian mentioned you guys are a reseller of Corticon, a great way of externalizing rules, taking rules out of code and out of people's heads, making them manageable, and making it possible for you to evolve those policies using business users as opposed to relying on technology, relying on developers in order to do so. You need those subject matter experts to be involved. This is an enabling technology that enables that. So we'll talk more about those three things. So with that, I'll kick off talking about our data connectivity solutions that are deployed in many of those products that Ian mentioned. And this is really DataDirect and DataDirect Cloud. I always like to start this conversation, I always like to start this discussion of DataDirect around the three core problems we solve. Very simply, problem number one is helping your application connect to your core operational database. So if I have an application, very often these applications in almost all cases are usually very data centric. They have some core data that is, whether it's an order management system and it has all of your orders stored, where it's a CRM system and they have all of your customer records and your account records. For any of these real applications out there, they have a core database. They usually today still favor and use relational databases and support some of the big 4 or 5 relational databases out there. And we grew this business and created, the genesis of the DataDirect business was really around solving problem one, helping people connect their applications running on any platform, running in any application environment to any database. And that's really where the DataDirect business came from. But we started to see, as we grew, as people adopted our technology, there was really another problem. It was not only your connection to your core database, but problem two is a reaction to the fact that applications are no longer an island unto themselves. They all live inside of a broader and vaster IT ecosystem or a broader and vaster partner network in which they don't own all of the information, whether there's customer master data stored in a CRM system or analytics data stored in a big data cluster or aggregate information in your corporate data warehouse. For a variety of reasons, applications more and more need to integrate with the world outside, whether it is to add their data to that world outside or to pull data from the world outside. So more often than not, I see customer master data coming out of CRM systems. So we have a lot of customers that using DataDirect to solve problem two, pull their data from SaaS applications like Salesforce, for example, and bring customer records and account details into their core application and integrate it with data in their core operational store. And finally, problem three, connecting the world to your application and data. I'm going to give you an HP specific example of that a little bit later on, but the core of the problem is, how do I, as an application provider, as a software, as an ISV provider of technology, when I'm storing people's data inside of my environment, I have my own proprietary APIs in many cases, I may have my own proprietary data storage formats. How do I make that data accessible and available to everyone in my organization using their tool of choice? How can I provide standards-based connectors that plug into the widest array of environments for the others in my organization or the others in my customers' organizations to access that data once the application is deployed on site? So we'll talk a bit about HP DBA, DB archiving, and we'll talk about how you yourselves have solved that problem inside using DataDirect technology. So continuing on, so we solve those problems through, obviously, our product portfolio. The core products that we can talk about today, and then I want to introduce you to today that many of you are already familiar with. Progress DataDirect Connect, certainly our flagship product where we built this business from. ODBC, JDBC, ADO.NET connectivity to a vast array of data sources. Started with relational data, expanded to include SaaS applications, and now a lot of our current growth has really been driven by both SaaS applications, as I mentioned, as well as big data and NoSQL sources. So as more and more of these sources become available, as people are storing more and more of their business critical data or their data critical for their apps inside of all of these different sources, the wider library of DataDirect connectors that we provide and the more value that we can bring into HP as an organization. Progress DataDirect Cloud, that is our delivery of our connectivity solutions as a cloud service. This has some unique advantages over some traditional delivery models. For example, in DataDirect Cloud, we really deliver only one connector, one driver, ODBC and JDBC, whatever fits best into your application environments, whether they're Java or native. You put that single driver inside of your application. Through interaction through the cloud service, it connects directly to the cloud service, and then all of the sources that we support in DataDirect are available through that cloud service. So instead of having 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 drivers for the 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 sources that I support, I give you one driver, and that you plug that into your application, and then whether you have data access needs on-premise or data access needs in the cloud for SaaS applications, or you're trying to pull big data out of an Amazon Elastic MapReduce cluster, for a variety of reasons, you could be pulling data from on-premise or the cloud. You do it all through one driver using DataDirect Cloud. So that has some advantages in how you manage the lifecycle of your software, in that we can continue to add connectors, continue to update to the latest standards without you ever changing the component you embed inside of your software. So as a product manager, which is certainly my day job, that is very much an important thing for me because it helps me manage the lifecycle of my products. And finally, there's always sources that we may not have a connector for, that could be proprietary, that could be internal storage formats inside of HP, and for that use case, we always provide an SDK. So not only can you buy the best drivers in the market from us, embed them in your applications, but should we not have something in our library, We have a full SDK that allows you to develop your own. This takes away 80-90% of the cost of building a standards-based connector. Really, you're just implementing one single interface, 12 simple functions. You choose your language, C, C++, Java, .NET. And with that one implementation of that interface, we can provide ODBC, JDBC, and ADO.NET connectivity, full SQL engine built in. We translate, parse, etc. We make the hard work of building a driver. We take that out of your hands and say, you tell us about your application. You give us these key features. How do you implement connectivity? How do you get metadata from your app? How would you execute a query? You tell us how the specializations we need for your specific application format protocol, and we wrap everything with a standards-based driver that plugs into any BI tool out there, or any ETL tool, or any tool that supports ODBC and JDBC, app platforms, everything. So that's our DataDirect portfolio of products. A lot of the growth in DataDirect is really driven by two major market trends: this explosion and adoption of SaaS applications, and the fragmentation and growth of the big data NoSQL marketplace. So really, as I said, we started our business around relational connectivity. We've certainly worked with HP historically around a lot of relational connectivity, but a lot of our growth and a lot of our investment has been going beyond relational and making the whole world look like it's a SQL database. So whether you're dealing with SaaS data, you don't have to know the intricacies of each and every API. You don't have to worry about the fact that Salesforce's API or Eloqua's APIs changes quarterly and sometimes in incompatible ways, depending on which SaaS vendor you're working with. That's all our problem. We can make everything else in the world look as if it's a SQL supporting relational database sitting on premise, whether it's a cloud service, whether it's a NoSQL database like a Mongo or a Cassandra, whether it's a analytics big data oriented database like a Hadoop. Whatever your data source is, whether it's relational, data warehouse, SaaS, or big data, we provide this normalizing layer that makes everything look and feel the same, which really saves you time and saves you money and improves the consistency of your applications as they fit into everyone else's, all of your customers' environments. We have a large portfolio of connectors. This grows every month. I release new data sources all the time. So if you don't see something on this list that meets your needs, or if you're looking for something else, well, we have SDKs that allow you to build them. We have custom engineering that allows us to build them, and we have roadmap that is a very significant amount of investment goes into building new sources every day for us. Why do customers choose DataDirect? Well, first and foremost, blistering fast performance is always one of the criteria. Very often customers call us in when they're making a transition to a new platform, when they're going from Unix to Windows, they're going from an all IBM shop to a Linux shop, when they're changing databases. And what they find is very often as they make these transitions, as they expand their business, maybe they've acquired a new company and they now have twice the application workload that they had previously, very often they hit a major wall with respect to performance. So very often, I've heard customers say my application crumbled. It went down to its knees. How can you help me? And very few people realize the importance and the role that connectivity plays in the performance of your application. So it's always a big surprise for people. They plug in our drivers, they replace an existing free driver or a low-end driver that they found in the marketplace, and they immediately see an impact. They didn't have to develop anything. They didn't really even have to reconfigure very much. We plug into the same standard, so it just works. And that's always the most important power of DataDirect is they download the driver, they try it out in their application. They need almost no help to do it because it plugs into existing mechanisms right there, and they nearly always immediately see a major performance improvement. One such customer that chose us for this is Yamaha. Certainly concerned with speed. This is their motorcycle division out of EMEA in this case. But they were doing one of those transitions that I spoke about. So they migrated their order management system. They were going for an all-blue shop, and they went from IBM to SQL Server and Linux. but the volume of data, their new systems, their new software really couldn't handle it. Same system running on different operating systems and different databases, and they're the ones who told me that it brought their system to its knees due to the performance. They downloaded the DataDirect driver, our SQL Server driver running on Linux. They replaced the free driver that was available and immediately got a 20 times performance increase. With tuning, they got even more. So it's really important to understand how prevalent these performance-based problems are and how often these performance-based problems are actually related to the connectivity solutions you're using. It was really surprising to me when I entered the DataDirect business of how much of a role it plays. But you see these amazing performance improvements in well-tuned applications when they embed our drivers. And certainly a lot of people choose us based on that and that alone. Also, people work with DataDirect because we've played such a role in building the standards. We understand these standards. We have tremendous test suites to support it. So we are great at allowing all systems, all devices, all applications connect into your application. We're the best at really creating true implementations of these standards and using those to connect your applications to all of the tools available in the IT ecosystem. So I promised you an HP example, and here's actually one where HP leveraged our open access product. So I'm assuming many of you are familiar with the HP database archiving software. And you know what it does, it certainly transitions records from a variety of databases and operational storage to a longer term XML and other base storage. So this is for compliance and regulatory reasons. This is for offloading work and improving the performance of your operational stores. For any one of a myriad of reasons, people are moving things more and more into the HP archiving solution. However, this is a proprietary data format. XML doesn't fit really well into your existing IT environment. Sure, I can move it around and pass it around as messages, but I really can't fit it into my BI tool very easily. I really can't fit it into my ETL and data warehousing environment very easily. So HP came to Progress and found Progress in Progress DataDirect and said, we have this problem, and we want to be able to get our HP archiving solution, DBA or DB archiving, and allow people to integrate with, I don't know, Crystal Reports, with IBM Cognos, simple things like Excel, complex things like SAP Business Objects. So any system that they find in their IT environment, most often this starts with an analytics requirement. How can I let people access that and still give them the visibility into the data they demand, but the optimized and highly performant and long-term storage solution that we provide? Well, Progress DataDirect Open Access was the answer to that. And HP built a custom ODBC and JDBC connectivity for their proprietary data format. And the results, in the words of your director of R&D, or one of the directors of R&D on this product, was we quickly helped push the technology to market. We made it really easy to do so. So it was very quick to deliver this technology. As I said, we deliver 80 to 90% of what it takes to build a driver. You're just telling us what customizations are specific to your application. They obviously have our sales team, our support team backing them to prove out the technology, and we went quickly to contract and to market. So this is a really great example of how inside of HP, you had a business problem, a technology problem, we helped to solve it, and we together created a solution and got it to market much, much faster than either of us would have been able to do alone. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time in this one simplifying the chaos and the data variety explosion. So what do I mean by that? Well, it used to be easier to be in the data business. The data connectivity business used to have, there were 3 to 5 main databases that everyone put all of their data in. So after that period of consolidation, well, really I shipped a number of drivers that covered 95% of the market landscape of where people are storing data. We have some legacy databases supported, we have some mainframe databases supported, and then we have the big 4 or 5 databases that everyone else is using out there. So it was easier to be in the SQL connectivity, the ODBC connectivity business, because we were really dealing with a limited variety of different data sources. However, the world has fundamentally changed. Go back to my slide on SaaS, go back to my slide on big data. There's thousands of different options for people and where they're going to store their business critical data. Even though SaaS applications run on some of those same traditional databases, I challenge you to get access to that underlying database. There's really no way. You have to go through their API. So all of the data has really left your data center and been spread out across the winds to SaaS applications, to big data clusters inside, to big data clusters running in the cloud, to operational relational databases. It's a great time to be in data right now. But it certainly is no longer as easy as it used to be. Today it's a really hard problem. How do we simplify this chaos? And we do so by making everything in the world look and feel as if it's still living in a SQL standards-based relational database living on-premise. Whether it's SaaS, whether it's big data, whether they all support different variants of SQL, whether they don't support the same functions, we normalize all of those different discrepancies between all these different data sources, and we make them look and feel the same. A customer that certainly benefits from this is one of our ISV partners, MicroStrategy. If you're not familiar with them, they're a BI and analytics tool, and they embed our drivers. Really, it just simplifies their job. They walk into a customer, and they know they're going to support all the data sources that their customers throw at them. They know that they can do a successful proof of concept. They know they can do a successful demonstration of their technology because they don't have to worry about finding all of these different connectors lying around. They don't have to worry about performance implications of free drivers. They don't have to worry about configuring it for this particular environment being different than everything else. We have one normalized approach, one consistent configuration approach, one consistent level of SQL that we support. It requires them to do much less work, much less development, much less testing, because there are far fewer code paths that deal with differences and many, many more that deal with the similarities that we're able to create between all of these different data sources, whether they're simple relational, moving all the way into the largest of big data clusters. And of course, as HP does, they always value having that single vendor, that single throat to choke, as I like to say, for all of their data connectivity needs. When they have a new source that they need, they know where to go. When they have support issues with any of their data sources, they know where to go. That single vendor solution certainly simplifies the management of any software process. So digging in a bit more, it takes a little bit for people to sometimes see the value of that. So I hear this story very often, is that very often people start building their own connectivity, whether they're pulling free out of the open source marketplace or they're building directly to APIs provided by SaaS applications. They usually provide their first connector, and they build it directly against the API, and then they're really happy, right? Well, they are, but then they release it to market and they find, well, I don't really need just that one connector. If I'm delivering a Salesforce connector, well, I'm going to also need a connector to my marketing automation system. So now I need Marketo. Or maybe I want to get closer to the back office and I need a NetSuite connector. Or maybe I'm doing an analytics project and I'm going between different Hadoop distributions, or I'm going between my NoSQL databases and my Hadoop distributions that we're using. For a variety of reasons, once you ship that first connector, you're never done with one. You always have more and more to do. And now if you look at the rate of change of each of these individual sources, each of these individual sources is making quarterly, at least, updates to their API. So not only am I dealing suddenly with this breadth of sources I need to provide across all these different spaces, but I'm also required to maintain and update my software in accordance with their lifecycle and with their change management policies. Quickly, this becomes way too difficult, and it requires you to focus not on your core competency, but on building connectors. So I often have customers that come to us and say, we embarked down this path, we built one-to-one connectivity, we embedded various components, and we find more and more, we feel like we're more in the driver business than being in our core business. Can you help me? So, and the answer obviously is yes. So we simplify that chaos. We are your single vendor that provides you these connectivity to this vast array of sources, and we don't make you learn different APIs and different mechanisms for each and every one of these sources. We make everything look the same. DataDirect Cloud is a great example of taking this concept and actually pushing it to the extreme. Not only do we provide through Connect, every single driver feels and looks the same, and as you plug each and more of those into your application, you connect to more and more sources. DataDirect Cloud takes that to the extreme by saying, here, we're just going to give you one super driver. It's a JDBC driver, it's an ODBC driver, and it allows you to connect to any and all sources that we support by using our cloud service. So you take that driver, you connect to one cloud service, and then we, through the back of that cloud service, allow you to interact with any and all of the sources that we support inside DataDirect Cloud. So we provide that single unified SQL access. Also for those that are RESTful orientation, we're also moving towards supporting an OData approach to exposing that data. So if I'm building a mobile application where maybe a driver doesn't fit, I can still access all of those sources through that same cloud service. We provide real-time access, so you're looking at the data as it exists right now. We're not making you look at a cached copy of it. We're not making you look at a batch job that we imported all the data last night. This is the data as it exists right now, and because of our history creating performant connectivity solutions, we can do so, give you a real-time view without incurring any significant performance overhead, even by using our cloud service. We're a partner-driven business, so we always make it easy to embed our technology. We were built around the idea of building out this business through partners. So we make our products easy to embed, easy to brand, easy to make invisible to your customers, so they feel like you're offering coming directly to them. And finally, all these advantages provide significant decrease in cost because you're able to focus on your core competency, not have to be in the driver business, not have to be in the adapter business, and also not have to support all the challenges and all the issues you run into because of the diversity in these data sources. That becomes our job, and we become that one that broke the choke to enable you to do that. Another variant of how we simplify that chaos is our approach to MongoDB. And I'm really going to rush through this so I can get you to the demo. You can see it rather than having me tell you about it. But the key points here is, we think through not only what it means to make it look like a relational database from a connection perspective, we think through really how will it best fit, what kind of data model, what kind of semantics can we layer on top of NoSQL databases or all of the data sources that we connect to make them feel and act as if it truly were relational data. So this is a good example of that, where with traditional approaches to Mongo connectivity, I know many of you have likely worked with Mongo before, certainly getting very popular out there as a JSON store. It's very popular under web applications because it stores native JavaScript objects. The general approach to Mongo is they take the documents that are stored inside of Mongo, which usually look like that little blob in the middle of JSON, and then they create one big fat table out of it. Now this has a lot of limitations because this isn't a very natural way for data to be consumed. If you think about it, every time that there's another entry in that emails array, for example, a new column is created. This is one big fat table. There's no normalization. All of the things you'd expect to see when you look at a relational data model are not created, are not exposed by the standard approach to connecting to Mongo. All they've done is wrapped Mongo in a very thin layer of ODBC and JDBC. But your schema is constantly shifting out from underneath you. There's a lot of limitations inherent in this approach. So we obviously go further, and we have thought through how can we make Mongo really feel and act as if it were a relational database. How can I be comfortable connecting a BI tool to Mongo, telling it it's just an ODBC connection, and really seeing it and making it work, regardless of all of the different documents that they've run into, regardless of the length of various arrays. So we've taken the approach of providing the ability to normalize that data. So we don't take the document as is and make a big fat table out of it. What we do is we normalize the data, we shred that document apart into a variety of virtual tables that are linked together with foreign keys. We really make it feel like a relational database well beyond just making a big fat table and supporting the ODBC standard. So with that, and there's obviously a lot of advantages to this approach as well. We take those complex types and don't keep them opaque. We actually shred them so you can see them and use them from SQL. You can use joins to bring them all together. It makes I'd say simpler table definitions, but also more stable table definitions. They don't grow, they don't change every time I reconnect when a new document's added. So for a variety of reasons, our approach to Mongo is both more aligned with what people who are looking for SQL access require, as well as it makes it a heck of a lot easier to develop an application consuming data from Mongo. So with that, I want to ask my colleague Brad Wright over here to actually demo some of this that I'm talking about, so you can see it more in the technology and less in the slides.
Thanks, Jamie. So I'll spend the next few minutes just to give you a brief demonstration of the latest member of our growing portfolio of DataDirect connectivity products, which is to MongoDB. And Jamie has already set the stage, but I'm going to maybe set a little bit more color here to give you the context for the demo, so that you can better understand what you'll see over the next couple minutes. And MongoDB is, of course, a very popular NoSQL data source, and providing standards-based connectivity to data that resides in operational systems, backed by MongoDB is a growing challenge and problem in the industry. So, we've chosen to provide, grow our portfolio of products to cover MongoDB, and it is, the data model for MongoDB is non-relational. And in fact, it is based on JSON, which is at the top of the slide. You see an example, the same example from Jamie's last slide, but I've highlighted a couple of things here. It's key to understand that, one of the things that MongoDB can do in its data model, and because of JSON, is contained arbitrarily deep nesting of data, and that's that highlighted, bolded address nested document that's referred to as a nested document that you see at the top of this slide. And furthermore, the second piece that's highlighted on the next line are the notion or the capability of JSON and Mongo to have arrays of data. And these are concepts that are not really well represented in relational databases. And Jamie's already spoken to you about what is common out there in the industry in terms of simply taking that data, regardless of depth and regardless of the arrays, and flattening it into that, as he said, big fat rectangle. There's a lot of disadvantages to that, and that's not really the way that individuals and your end users and relational applications written to SQL and the ODBC and JDBC standards would expect or prefer to see that data. How they expect and prefer to see that data is really what you're seeing at the bottom of this slide. And we refer to this as normalization, and what is really happening here that you'll see shortly is our ability through a schema tool that I'll show you again as part of the demo to map the components of these JSON documents in the collections of MongoDB table. The equivalent of a table to a relation database in Mongo is called a collection. Collection contained instances of documents that you see here. So taking those nested components and mapping them and representing them and exposing them through our DataDirect MongoDB ODBC driver as effectively a table. So the addresses piece here of the document becomes the contract's address table, and the email array becomes the contact's email table. And that's really how relational products prefer to see that data. So maybe with that little bit of extra bolding and color, let me begin the demo. So with that context, I'll just quickly point out that I'll go ahead and create a new data source just to give you all a look at the fact that this is, of course, just an ODBC driver. We are operating on our preview of our MongoDB driver. We just commenced a preview program, with a lot of great participation, including HP's participation. So I'll just walk through this, creating a DSN. This, should be very familiar to those of you who do this sort of thing with ODBC and enter the IP address of my particular laptop here and the connection details for the MongoDB server. And point out now that there is something that's different here. Part of the magic is this tool that we provide along with our driver that we call the schema tool. And the reason this is important is because MongoDB, because of the way it stores data, again, JSON, doesn't expose its metadata to, it doesn't provide ways to expose metadata out to consumers. So that's a significant gap to providing relational connectivity, and one of the things that we needed to do was fill that gap. So one of the roles that the schema tool does fill that gap. So I want to give you a quick look at that. So let's go ahead and just enter that and click Schema Tool. And up pops this tool to use to create these schema definitions, again connecting to my demo instance of MongoDB. I'm going to say no, we'll use the existing schema. But the point of this tool is to interrogate the MongoDB database, and it does so via a sampling process, and it introspects, if you will, the metadata and the data attributes in the MongoDB collections. The word for table in MongoDB is a collection. It's a collection of documents. Documents you can think of as rows. And so what we've done here is we've looked at all of the documents in the contacts collection and identified all the fields that are in those documents and surfaced through the schema tool sampling information about those fields, what the types are, how frequently they occur, and so I can click on a couple things here and see some more detail. There we go. See the sampling detail in the column statistics, and I can change types. I can perfect this schema into the desired target schema that I wish to expose to my consuming relational applications. And Jamie talked about the prevalence, the pattern that exists in the market of really taking the data that exists in these documents and flattening it out, regardless of whether it's nested in the JSON document in Mongo or exists in array, just taking it and flattening it into a big, long row, making it look rectangular. And in fact, we support that capability as well. And in fact, what you're seeing here is a flattened model. But let me go back and let's click Schema Tool again. And I'm going to say this time, open it, and I'm going to say, I want to create a new schema. So I'm going to say yes. So what you see here is one of the new features, or one of the unique features of our MongoDB solution, and that is the ability to walk through this wizard that will introspect that information from those JSON documents and either flatten it or normalize it. So I'm going to click Normalized here. And what you're going to see in this schema tool, it's done the same things that I've previously mentioned, done the sampling, interrogated all that metadata, but now, as opposed to one big flat contacts table, the normalized view that's being recommended by the tool here, and this can be changed. You can use this schema tool to change this. I won't go into that level of depth given time. But what it's done is it's identified the portions of the JSON document that are either nested or represented as arrays and mapped them into a more appropriate pattern for relational sources. And that pattern would be a foreign key table, a related one-to-many table. So in this case, contacts is the primary table. That's the root of the JSON document. Contacts addresses is a foreign key table, a related table, a one-to-many table that represents a nested document that happens to be in the contacts JSON collection, and similarly for emails, which is an array. So that was that's a quick look. There's a lot going on here, but I really want to make sure that you understand the role of the schema tool, the power of the schema tool, and some of that magic to really provide a more appropriate representation of MongoDB data and all of its fidelity to relational sources. So just to round things out quickly, I'm going to open up just a standard third-party ODBC-based tool. This happens to be WinSQL. I'm going to select one of the DSNs that I'd already created for our MongoDB instance, in this case where I used the schema tool to create a normalized view. So demo normalized. Go ahead and connect. And I'm going to open. I've got a few saved queries out here. I'll first start by showing you the catalog view. So now we're talking through our ODBC driver through that normalized schema representation, And the tables that this application sees, this third-party ODBC-based application sees, match those three tables that we just saw: contacts, contacts address, and contacts email. And the fields that are in them are exactly what we just saw. So we're making that, our driver is using that metadata that we saved and captured in that schema tool to make Mongo look as if, make the data in that JSON document in Mongo look as if it were, these three relational tables. And let's just do a couple quick queries. So here's a query from the root table, just a couple rows in it. Here's a query from the table that represents the nested portion of the JSON document. And in this case, that JSON document has individual fields for street, city, and state. Here's the portion of the table that represents the portion of the document that happens to be arrays. And here what we've done is we've taken those arrays and we've made them rows, which is the natural and appropriate thing to do for a relational source. And then just to finalize things, I want to do a quick join. These tables are in effect views into that JSON document, and you can treat them as if they're real tables. They are real tables from the context of that ODBC driver, and do joins between them. So here I'm joining between the root table, contacts, and one of the foreign key tables, emails, which is the array portion of that JSON document, and we've got a join. So there's a lot going on here, but hopefully that gives you a quick look at some of the unique and powerful features that are in our latest DataDirect connectivity product from MongoDB, and I'll pass it back to Jamie.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Brad. I really do appreciate it. I think that gives us a good perspective on some of, as I said, some of the magic that we do at DataDirect is making the whole world, whether it's SQL or NoSQL or SAS and an API or a RESTful API, making that whole world look as if it's a relational database. And certainly Brad gave you a good demonstration of how we do that in Mongo. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to move a little bit quickly through the rest of this. So I think from the perspective of DataDirect, DataDirect provides you that openness, that interoperability. When you walk into someone's new IT environment, you can access all of their technology, all of their sources. When you want someone to access your technology, as in the case of the HPDB archiving, we can create the most standards-based way of doing so with as little work as possible on your side to create those standards-based adapters. And finally, we really help to future-proof your application, because we're always following and tracking the trends in each and every one of these data sources that we support. We're trying to keep as up-to-date with all of their changes as fast as humanly possible. So whether you're changing between different Hadoop distributions in every customer site that you run into, or dealing with different database versions of SQL Server and Oracle as they continue to advance, or dealing with the breakneck pace of change of SaaS applications, for each and every one of these reasons, we help you save money, lower your risk, and future-proof your applications, because we're the ones handling the intricacies of data connectivity. I'm going to provide a brief overview of our business rules management technology as well, Progress Corticon. This will unfortunately have to be a bit briefer than I'd like, but once again I encourage you to follow up and watch the webinar, and as always, please feel free to reach out to me, your account team. We can always help you get more information on these technologies if they've piqued your interest. So business rules, as I said, it's the easiest way of defining, modeling, and implementing business decisions. So doing so, being able to change it easily. So whether you're dealing with an insurance decision like should I pay this claim, should we make an offer from a marketing perspective, like what is the best package to recommend to this particular user, who should we assign to this project who's available at this time because their skill sets match the requirements of the particular job we have in mind. All of these are business decisions we make every day. All of these we use subject matter experts and very often very manual processes in order to do them, or we've coded these into your application. HP uses Corticon today as part of a services offering that they make available to federal and state governments. And it really covers two different types of eligibility, retirement and pension eligibility, as well as healthcare eligibility, so health insurance eligibility. And they go into the Fed and they go into the state governments, and every state is different. Every municipality is different. So how can they build a solution for eligibility for state and local government and deal with the changes in regulation as they move from place to place, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction? Well, the answer is Progress Corticon. What they do is they've taken the rules out of their application, they've taken it out of the code, and they've built them using subject matter experts that can build a standard set of rules and then can customize it very, very quickly and very, very easily as they go between different jurisdictions and different municipalities. So as I said, the traditional approach is programming based, and everyone on this phone who's ever been in development, who works day to day with developers, knows that it's the incredible technology. You could build anything you want in code, but often it's a much harder change process because the impact of changing one line of code could actually deal with could impact a very wide array of different things. So every time regulations change, every time the market changes, every time your policy changes, you can't have people going in and changing the code of the system. You need a much more flexible, much more agile approach to changing rules, to changing policy. There's certainly a better way, and that better way is Progress Corticon. In Progress Corticon, we've really thought through both the modeling and development aspect of creating rules. So we have a very simple tool it looks like a decision table for those that are familiar with that, but a big Excel-like view of your roles, and a very effective environment for subject matter experts, for business users to create and update those rules. The key is not only that we make it easy to develop and deploy those rules, which we do. The tool's great, it's easy to use for business users, and it compiles into very performant, very high-scale Java or .NET code that runs on any standard server that you have out there. But we've also thought through the entire change cycle, the entire life cycle of rules. So not only is it easy to build them the first time, but it's extremely easy to change that. So as an example, we have testing built into the environment. So you can run all of your regression tests against your rules and all of your different usage scenarios every time you make a change. We have impact analysis, so we can tell you not only what does this change impact and what other rules are changing, but also we can help you identify gaps in your rules. Are there edge cases? Are there conditions that your rules will not meet, and you'll have scenarios that fall through the gaps? So a very complete environment for managing the life cycle of business decisions and compiling them and deploying them as decision services. Key use cases, I've mentioned the one that's key to HP really is I have it on the bottom. It's really application customization. It's really part of your services offering is having a flexible way and an easy way of changing those healthcare, those pension eligibility rules. However, we see a lot of interest in our OEM, in our ISV partners in using it as a vehicle to customize their applications or to customize their services offerings in general. It takes a lot of the logic out of the code and takes a lot of it out of esoteric configuration files and puts it in the hands of the user. When you embed Corticon in your application, you can actually make all of those rules externalized and make them available for editing, for updates, for customization by business users, not requiring a large services engagement or a significant amount of technology skill in order to change your rules when your business changes. This obviously saves time and saves money, and we have a number of different proof points for that, of reducing the number of people involved in processes, reducing the number of manual steps, reducing the amount of time to create initial rules, reducing the amount of time especially to change those rules when regulation and policy changes. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go through that today with you because we are at the top of the hour. I want to reserve at least a little time for questions. But in summary, Progress solves a variety of use cases. We have a wide portfolio of products for app dev, for data connectivity, for integration, for business rules management. We have a long-standing partnership with HP and can demonstrate our track record of meeting the needs of the world's leading software vendors like HP. And our specialty is really focused on embedding in products. We understand the unique needs of OEM relationships and have built our business around that for 25 years. We have a broad portfolio of connectivity in our DataDirect portfolio, whether you're using it for relational connectivity as you are today, big data, SaaS applications. There's a lot of expansion opportunities for how you can use DataDirect to access more and more sources well beyond relational. Whether you're trying to interact with Mongo, as Brad showed you, whether you're trying to get access to Salesforce data, when you're trying to integrate with big data systems that we're finding in more and more IT ecosystems, there's a world of possibilities with DataDirect technology. Progress Corticon makes it easy to customize services offerings, customize applications, implement marketing and lead routing, anything that's driven by business rules and business policy and is subject to change very quickly. Corticon is a great solution for, and I encourage you to check it out. And finally, for any and all information, always feel free to contact your account team, visit our website. Don't believe me, test the software itself. Download DataDirect, download Corticon. We have all the evals available online and would love to work with you and help you get through your own proof of what I've said, as opposed to looking at my slides and just believing me. Finally, when you want to reach out, when you have any questions, any support issues, any technology questions, anything, please reach out to your account team. And with that, I just want to close up and see if there's any Q&A here before we end. Okay, so the first one is, I'm a Progress DBA. Please identify who in HP we could speak to regarding Progress products and services. I don't know particularly the people in HP that are dealing with Progress technology, although I think between Ian and Sarah, maybe Sherry, they may have some contacts internally that can share with you. But we can certainly help you to connect internally in HP to find out more about Progress technology. I'd love to hear more about your use cases around Progress DBs inside of HP.
Yeah, Jamie, this is Ian. Tim, to your question, we have numerous references depending on which connectivity Progress DataDirect technology you're interested in. So references are readily available.
Okay, so the next one I see is from Rob Connolly. Geographically, where is your cloud solution hosted today? Is it utilizing a public cloud environment, or is it hosted within a Progress private cloud environment? Today, our DataDirect cloud service is hosted within a public cloud environment in the United States. We're expanding this year and also hosting in European environments and potentially moving even into APJ and other public cloud options. But from a roadmap perspective and from where the focus of our development really is we are private cloud enabling it as well. So if you do not want to choose one of our public cloud environments, we could also provide a private cloud packaging of that, and that's something that's in the works today. But today, public cloud hosted in the US with expansion into EMEA in the short term. The next one is from Eyal, and how is it done in MongoDB? As far as I know, MongoDB does not support joins. And then another one from Eyal, I'm going to throw them both to Brad here, and is there a query per new collection that was created? So, Brad, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. So, great question. MongoDB does not support joins across collections. And so the thing I think to highlight there is that our MongoDB driver includes a lightweight but powerful query engine that enables those joins. So, our solution, both ODBC and JDBC, will support joins either across those tables that really are abstracting, parts of a collection, intra-collection, if you will, and joins across documents, across collections. And I think maybe the last question y'all has here was possibly, I'm speculating, was about that last query that I did that was a join between two tables, one which was representing the root of a collection, the document of a collection, and one which was representing the embedded array portion of that same collection, and whether we had to do 2 round trips to Mongo. And the answer is we only do 1 round trip to Mongo in that situation, even though, so the driver and the lightweight query engine that's part of the driver is smart enough to know that that join was against the various pieces of one document. So it optimized that request to Mongo into a single data retrieval request.
So on behalf of Progress, on behalf of the team here, I do want to thank you very much for your participation today. I really look forward to following up. I do think there's some great opportunities for us, even though we work together significantly today, to expand that relationship and see where we can go across HP. So thank you very much again for your time today. So I see from Bruce Harrison, it says they've recently installed HP's BSM product, and the only DB options he recalls are Oracle and Microsoft SQL. Was the Progress option just recently added? Okay, so this might have been a little bit of confusion here. DataDirect can certainly help you connect to Progress technologies, including the Progress database, but we're used mostly in HP for connecting to other relational sources. So Oracle, SQL Server, we have the most performant connectors to the world of relational data, data warehouse, big data. We are in the connectivity business. So whether you want to connect to Progress, SQL Server, Oracle, or Hadoop, we have a connector for you, and that's how HP BSM uses our product, is connect to Oracle and SQL Server.
Yeah, Jamie, this is Ian, and I could add some flavor to Bruce's question. HP is licensed to distribute our connectivity technology for various versions of your Business Availability Center and NNM application, which we show as components of the Business Service Management offering. So for clarity's sake.
Thank you, Ian. I realize we're at the end of our hour and a little bit over. I appreciate those that stayed a little bit extra, as well as all of those that attended today. So on behalf of Progress, on behalf of the team here, I do want to thank you very much for your participation today. I really look forward to following up. I do think there's some great opportunities for us, even though we work together significantly today, to expand that relationship and see where we can go across HP. So thank you very much again for your time today.